airport delays in Ireland. Well, the average Irish is a thicko, and they listen to their thicko propaganda service RTE, and they think it's only happening in Ireland. And RTE have a vested interest to make sure it's that Irish people think it's only happening in one country. It's happening all over the place. Manchester, Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, 100,000 flights were cancelled in the USA last weekend. So those of you Irish who are going, the government can't do something about it, they can't, because this is a global issue. And why has it happened? Oh, it's very obvious to me. From now on, the catchphrase, the code word for people involved in the airline industry who took the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft and became very ill or died is now SkyDie. SkyDie. Think of deep vein thrombosis. Think of fake news stories about they discovered a new particle in the upper atmosphere that causes people to get sick. Think of all the distraction and lies. Think of what happens when you get up on a plane and you're up there for a few hours. What if it was your job? SkyDie is a number of things, but SkyDie is predominantly so caused by the fact that we've suddenly gone back to 2019 regarding airports, okay? And what happened? We discovered that lots of people who worked in the airport and airline industry don't exist anymore. Why don't they exist? SkyDie. SkyDie is not only mortality and injury as a result of the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft among both aircraft crews and pilots and ground staff and baggage people. It's also a result of people who were told that they had to get the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft or lose their jobs, and who said, well, fuck you, and left their jobs. That's another part of it as well. Now, Dublin Airport is a very good case example, though, for everyone else involved in this. The baggage crews at Dublin Airport are extreme left-wing Trotskyite unions, public sector unions, and every single one of them, like all insane Marxist lefties, would have took the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft just because it was science, and that's what they're like. That's the same reason all the civil servants have taken it as well. It's just a way of proving your devotion to the system and to your comrades, and so there lots of them have either died, or they are out sick, or they can't work like they used to work. They don't have the strength or the energy like they used to have. Now, an interesting case was they had Mary and Sean McGinty from fucking County Arsewipe going to Dublin Airport to go to their flight to Lanzarote or wherever it was, and they were saying, I'll never fly here ever again. No, I'll never fly to Dublin ever again, boyo. And no one here, no. Now, they said something very interesting. They said that they saw their luggage put on the plane. They were flying to Naples, that the luggage was put on the plane. They were at the boarding gate ready to go, and suddenly they saw the luggage coming off the plane, and the flight had been cancelled back to Naples. What had happened there? One of the flight crew or the pilots flying from Naples, who had taken transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft, had developed some kind of high blood pressure, clots, whatever, deep vein trombone, whatever, and they had to be rushed to a hospital. They got, I can't fly back. I'm in bits. I don't feel right, because they're now working the schedules they were working again in 2019. So they're up in the sky a lot more. And when you're up in the sky a lot more with the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft flowing through your body, you're going to get SkyDie. So they got SkyDie. And it's happening all over. Now that they're back to working their original schedules from 2019, the issues surrounding the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft are showing in the one industry that was completely shut down, more or less, suddenly, and even if it wasn't shut down, there was no one taking planes. I took one of the last flights out of the UK from Liverpool to Ireland West Airport. I was literally right before the lockdown was implemented, and I was me and two other people on the plane, on a big like Ryanair plane, flying between Liverpool and the west of Ireland. It's usually packed, and that was all basically all shut down. So the staff who work in the canteens and cafes and all the stuff in in the airports, they would have been all they were. That's an industry where you were told to get the transubstantiation of the needlecraft or no job. Now remember, like British Airways did it and other airlines did it. They said you better do it or not. So Sky and even like Ryanair didn't help either. So SkyDie is what's happening now. They're going to try and blame it on everything from this new invented particle in the upper atmosphere that causes people to get sick when they're on planes. Bullshit. They're going to blame it on PTAN and aviation fuel being not coming through because of the Russian war. Bollocks as well. And so that's what's happening at SkyDie. And, so people are going, our local government have to fix this up. The people are the average sheep are so stupid everywhere. They say the government will hire baggage handling people to fulfill to stop the big long queues outside airport buildings, but none of the sheep will ask where are all the baggage crews gone? Where are they? Surely no one was. They don't have the brain to put one and one together that way. So it's SkyDie. And the ones that are, they go in there and it goes, geez, I used to take 10 bags off a plane a minute and I could do that all day. For some reason, I don't have that strength now to pull, because it's still a physically demanding job. Even with all the, the conveyor belts and all the other things, there's still an element of throwing things onto trucks, onto those little carts that go, the little farmer's trailers, they look like they go to the plane with the baggage on. There's still an element of that. That's still hard physical labour. And they're finding those fellas are going, I can't work anymore. I'm in agony after do the first. I come into work at 8 p.m. by 9 o'clock. I used to have to work right through to 4 and unload and load 30, 40 planes. Now I can't get through the first one. Oh, by the way, I'm off to get my my Foghorn Leghorn Plus. Boy, I said, boy! They can't put one and one together and get through. They're actually in their minds. They're doing Common Core math. Speaking of which, wonderful Candace Owens came right out and said on Twitter that Gates Windows 0 is the world's #1 biological terrorist. Thank you, Miss Owens, for saying that. Thank you so very much. That's what he is. He's the world's #1 bioterrorist. That's what Windows 0 is. But anyway, so what happens is you have bottlenecks, bottlenecks. Because they're union jobs in airports, especially in most airports, but like Dublin Airport, where be unions, none of them were let go, none of them were fired. So they were all sitting at home getting their getting their pandemic unemployment payment, the €350 a week, sitting on their arses watching Netflix, and then all they had to do. You see, it's very sinister. Although it was never openly stated out front, the pandemic unemployment payments, or the furloughs they called them in England, or the assistance, whatever they're called in America, that was their way of saying, we gave you money, the least you can do is roll your arm up for the needlecraft. See, it's very devious. So it puts it in, you don't get nothing for nothing. So a lot of them are at home going, sure, I have to roll my arm up, roll my sleeve up and get myself the needlecraft, because, they were giving me €350 a week to sit home my arse watching Fleabag. And, yeah, you mark my words. There was a flight between Dublin and Manchester that in the lovely old Volvo, the old boxy Volvos in green gone by. They don't make nice cars like that anymore. A Volvo station wagon in green and perfect nick, an old one like a one from the 80s. But cars were so much nice. They all look like pillboxes now. Do you ever notice that? But all cars back in the 80s, all cars are different, all styles and all whatever. Anyway, so the flight was turned around in the middle of the Irish Sea and flew back to Dublin on an emergency, and it said something in the paper about, or no, it didn't say in the paper. It was put onto the Facebook report of it. Suspected broken glass and windscreen. I don't believe that for a second. I mean, it could be true. I think that the pilot went like that from SkyDie, and they had because you had other situation where you had passengers landing planes all over America. Someone was saying that there's been unprecedented numbers of small aircraft falling out of the sky, and helicopters falling out of the sky, and that's a big thing. So when you go up, your blood pressure is different. It's everything's pressurized cabin, and that's where the same thing that causes deep vein thrombosis in some people is the same thing that causes SkyDie, and that's what's happening. And a lot of the shop talk among a lot of pilots, and they're saying, "I'm not going up. I'm not going up again." I got the needle crap when hearing the stories of what happened. That you can be guaranteed. One thing there's been many cases over the years of investigations into airline crashes, and one of the first things that the investigators will always look out for is what they call shop talk among pilots. So say they're flying a certain Airbus or a certain Boeing or some other plane, and they notice that when they're traveling south at a certain speed, that the plane suddenly uses more fuels and the wings wobble or something, and that's called shop talk among pilots. And the pilots will say that. Did you ever notice? I saw that stoat again. Remember the stoat that was here last time. So the pilot will say, they'll say things like, have you noticed that too when you're flying from Paris to Rio de Janeiro, that when when you pump up the engines at a certain speed, the wings shake, and that's how they discover things about planes. It's like working out viruses or working out bugs or problems in software. So if a plane goes down for no reason, the first thing they'll do is interview lots of pilots, say, "What's the shop talk on this plane, on this particular Boeing or this particular Airbus? What's the shop talk on it? Any anomalies that pilots have talked about?" Well, I can guarantee you that same shop talk is now circulating among pilots who have been needlecrafted, saying, I'm not getting into that cockpit ever again. I'm not getting into that cockpit ever again." And same with the flight crews, shop talk. And what's going on? It's like SkyDie, deep vein, right? And same with the ground crew. It's all fit. Have you noticed that it's mostly active people or people who are put under physical stress who are in the most danger of dying because of the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft? Young sports people, people with jobs involving heavy labor, lifting and things like that. And what do ground crews do with the baggage handlers? And as for airplanes, yeah, I mean, you look at a flight attendant on an airplane, particularly on the big planes. Those women, and should we say, womanly men, it's lights either side down the avenue. Those do the swishy, the ones that do the swishy, what you call it, safety thing before the airplane. And some salty nuts, please, sir. And would you like to try my salty nuts? Those types. And so there'd be loads of talk about that and that kind of thing. And those people work so hard. I mean, on a long haul flight, any long haul flight I've been on, you can see it. That's a hard ass job. It's physically demanding, bringing trays around, and also even if you're not doing that, you know how tired you are after, even on a short haul flight. How your body doesn't feel right when you hit the ground. Just how tired you are, and you need a rest. You don't normally go right off the plane to what you do if it's any more than like an hour flight. Well, those people are doing it constantly all day long. Physically, that's very demanding. And it used to be traditionally a great job to keep fit. A lot of girls used to enter that job just so they could keep fit and keep their weight down, run. It was like being paid to do a workout all the time. But one of the few jobs today where you do get an actual workout running around. But because of SkyDie, they're all dropping dead now, or they're getting very ill, or they just can't do it. They, like I said, with the baggage guy, they can't. Oh Jesus, in Dublin Airport. Yeah, where's Arthur? Oh, he came in yesterday and did one shift, and he's in bits at home. Oh, really? Yeah. I feel, I don't know what it is, but ever since, I guarantee you, here's the shop talk among the baggage handlers in every airport in the world. Jesus, on the lunch break, right? Jesus, I don't know what it is, but ever since we came back and started doing the regular shifts again, I'm just exhausted. And then someone say, you're just out of shape. But what about, arsehole McGinty over there? What about him? And then he seems to be handling coming back into the job no problem. And your one over there, she's the same. They seem to be back to, and then no one will think maybe arsehole McGinty and your one over there would be the ones who didn't have the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft. And therefore, their bodies are not being destroyed. They're not filled with fatigue constantly and brain fog. They're not in bad moods and irritable all the time. And then the same with the flight crews and the pilots. If they don't get SkyDie, it's only a matter of time. I'm telling you, it's all coming out now. We're rapidly approaching a bodies in the street level scenario. We really are. If things keep on going. Again, I'm just seeing those ambulances just zipping back and forth all day. And they can't hide it for much longer. And all the Irish hospitals are reporting record amounts of people with strokes and record amounts of people with clots. And it's the same in every country that had a high uptake of transubstantiation. The number one killer among the middle classes today is two diseases, one called suddenly and the other one called unexpectedly. Well, you can add a third one to that, SkyDie.